Hello friends, welcome back to my show. Today we have someone very unique, someone who is extremely relevant to our times. Friends, we live in an age which is not just multicultural but is extremely digital. Last week, one of the conspiracy theories about pandemic which I heard and which I found very interesting was it kind of concerns that why did pandemic happen when we were fully ready? I mean, I never thought of it like that, but if you look at it, there was already Zoom, there were like a lot of digital, equivalent of what we can live with in these times. And so someone commented that possibly in our times, the government or the big brother government necessarily needs to get people off the road, ease the infrastructure. And I found it a little bit believable, although I don't really believe in it, but yes, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but yes, definitely there's some credence to the fact that pandemic has come at a time when humankind, or the human race, at least in the Western world, was fully equipped to live a life online, away from the real setup in their households. Possibly everything which one can conceive was available online. So that's the age we're living in. And the question which sometimes concerns me and concerns a lot of people is that how safe or how vulnerable we are in this digital era. Do we really have privacy, or is it just a myth? I mean, again, the internet is full of conspiracy theories. People make jokes about it, that everything which we're doing is being watched, is being recorded. There's Alexa in our drawing rooms. There are all kinds of social media apps which we carry around, on which everything gets recorded. And now even there's NHS app, which possibly checks where we are at any given point of time. So this is a reality. And are the security systems and passwords which we use to kind of safeguard us good enough from keeping us from those dark characters in the dark web, the infamous, notorious dark web? So these are the questions that we worry about every single day. And what are the answers? Very few of us are equipped really to understand the implication of what we're doing on the internet. There are many times even a well-trained and well-groomed person who's fully knowledgeable about the pitfalls can fall into a scam, can fall for it. So we have today with us global information and cyber security expert Sandeep Sengupta. Sandeep is from the city of Joy, from India. He lives in Calcutta, and he's been working in the field of cybersecurity for more than 20 years, for 2 decades, and has been awarded with various awards and accolades throughout his career for his contribution to the field of cybersecurity. Sandeep is also a certified ethical hacker. Now, this is the term which I came across very recently, ethical hacker. And I was extremely curious that what can be an ethical hacker. I mean, hacker is a term which we all are aware of. We all have heard stories, we have seen news reports, and we've seen the biggest government organizations and even some of the military organizations in some of the countries, including Western countries, falling prey to hacking. I do remember a story when Pentagon, the hackers got into Pentagon, and that's really scary because you can imagine we are the Western powers like US and UK and all these Western powers are also nuclear powers, and the implications can be severe if someone hacks into your system. So Sandeep, welcome to my show. Sorry I took a bit of time to introduce you because I didn't want the viewers to in any way undermine the importance of who you are. So I had to kind of build this up. Hope you understand that, and welcome to my show. Sandeep, so my first question to you
Thank
is.
you very much, Manish.
Thank you,
Very good.
Sandeep. So my first question is, what really is ethical hacking? What really it means, and who is an ethical hacker? So I'd like to understand that from you.
Correct. Right. So when we say ethical hackers, we are the cyber security people who protect the companies. So I would say that if you come to hackers, there are 5 types of hackers. So the bad hackers, the cyber criminals, the term that is used for that is cracker. Uh, the good hackers who basically protect the company, they are called the hackers. So if you differentiate between them, we have the good hackers whom we call the white hat hackers, and the bad hackers, that is the cyber criminals, they are called the black hat hackers. So though neither of us wear some hat, but I would say the white hat hackers are the good hackers, and the bad hackers has been labeled as black hat hackers. However, other than these two, we have the script kiddies, people who run tools but they do not know how the tool works. And we have like gray hat hackers who are sometimes between bad and good.
Okay.
And finally, there is a fifth type who are called the hacktivists. That means they hack for a cause. The most famous name for this is like the Anonymous, the Anonymous group who took down hundreds of porn sites on one hand, and on the other side, they are attacking government websites to take them down. So these are the 5 type of hackers: the white hat hackers, the black hat hackers, the gray hat hackers, the script kiddies, and the hacktivists.
Hacktivists. I really like that word, but I'm not sure who coined these words. But the white hat hackers versus the black hat hackers. So definitely, I'm sure in today's times, in today's time of how we assign, color, it doesn't quite sound right. The white is the good, and the black hat is not the, is possibly not the good ones. But anyway. That's very, very interesting, and I think you summed it up really well. I mean, the kinds of hackers. So, hacktivists is something really, really interesting. I'm sure they can do a lot of good to the world. So, Sandeep, what is the digital footprinting in ethical hacking? Like, what are the techniques used? I mean, how does one do this? I'm sure I would not really understand the technicality of it, but if you want to just give us in a nutshell, what really, how does one go about it?
Right. So see, like we are like the cyber police. We try to protect the companies, like the individuals. So whenever there is a crime, uh, what what is most important is there is something called an IP address. So just like your postal address, uh, if you do a crime, then police will come to your home, and that is your postal address. So if you do a crime line, uh, they come to your IP address. So that IP means Internet Protocol, and that IP address is very important in the digital media. So when suppose you are going to a particular site, www.something.com, you have an IP address, that site has an IP address. So once you visit that site knows which IP you have come from. And if you do something naughty over there, they can actually give that IP address to police. Police will take that IP address and go to the telecom operator and ask the telecom operator, whom did you assign this IP at that particular date on that particular time? So telecom operator will tell the police that this is the name of the person, this is where he resides, and immediately police can catch him. So that IP address is the digital footprint, and that is what solves all the problem. However, most of the recent hackers, they use some proxy.
Okay.
So what they do, they use a browser called Tor browser, and they use some proxy server where their IP is hidden and some different IP is produced to the site. So, for example, I'll give you an example. So, I want to go to, suppose, google.com. So, if I want to go to google.com, a normal person will just go to a browser and type google.com. So, we know each other's IP address.
Correct.
Something is wrong, that IP address can be handed over to police. But I am a bad hacker. So then what I will do, I will use Tor, I will use a proxy server. Most likely I will go to a country, I will go to a server. I don't know, in some country where maybe UK doesn't have a diplomatic relation.
Okay.
So I will use that IP, and from that server I will go to Google. So when Google will see the IP, they will see the IP of one particular country where it doesn't have any jurisdiction or cannot send the police. So that is how the hackers are hiding them behind countries. Suppose if I want to, if somebody wants to have US, they will go to a country where US doesn't have any diplomatic relation. So this is how, using the proxy of two countries where they don't have much diplomatic relation, they are doing something criminal activity, but police is getting stuck over there.
Got it. So, I mean, in simple ways, you just mask your ID or your IP by using a software.
Correct.
And I guess, I presume one can also do it, let's say, from an internet, parlor or internet, somewhere where you don't necessarily have to identify yourself. That's possible, right?
Not in India.
Not in India.
Because even over here, if you want to go to a cyber parlor, you have to produce your national identity card.
Okay.
Otherwise, they will not allow you.
Okay.
So it has become very difficult since it's a lot of digital crime going. So if that is happening, not possible.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have CCTV in the cyber parlor.
Okay.
So if somebody does something and it is immediately caught, then you can check the CCTV footage and find out who has done it.
Who has done it? But okay, so in the wider world, it's possibly using software like Tor or one of those encrypting platforms.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. And why can't Google or all the tech companies which are so big and so powerful and have incredible amount of resources, why they can't safeguard this? Is there any reason why they can't do that, or they don't want to do it?
A very interesting question that you have asked. Now, this might come to a shocker to your audience. The internet that you know, like the one that you have explored through Google or your normal browser, any browser that you use, is only 5% of the internet. So you have never seen 95% of the internet. So that 95% of internet is called the deep web.
The deep web, like the deep sea.
So that internet, Yes, that's correct. That's like the deep sea.
Yeah.
So whatever you have explored till now, that is called the surface web.
Correct.
So whatever you have seen till now as surface web, anything below the surface web which you have not explored, that is 95% of the internet, that is called deep web.
Okay.
Now within the deep web, the part where the cyber criminals are doing a lot of criminal activity, so that is called the dark web. So dark web is specifically a small part of the deep web. And this entire dark web, deep web is not controlled. So it is not in the control of any person. As long as you have a server which you can connect to this entire network. I can put a server, I can host some website, I can connect it to the net, and I am live. I have no control on that. And if I am doing from a country where the law and order is not very strict, then it is very easy to do it. Nobody can control me.
I think that's a very kind of shocking fact that 95%, and as you put it, is the deep web, of which obviously dark web, as we all know it, is part of it. Now, personally, I don't have any problems with, I don't know, you mentioned hacking pornographic sites or those kind of sites. But there's a deeper, darker problem because dark web also does some things which are actually dark, which is, I believe, you can possibly, do everything unlawful, and not just unlawful, things which are forbidden in most parts of the world, including, I believe, human trafficking, buying people, those kind of things. Is that true? Is that the extent which dark web can really go into? I mean, this is all I've heard and read. That some really kind of unheard things which don't happen anymore in the real world. Slave trading, kind of buying people. Of course, the normal crime like buying drugs and all, which is still understandable because it also happens in the real world equally. But there's some things which only happen in the dark web. Is that true?
Well, you said something in the dark web is bad. I would say everything in the dark web is bad.
Oh, okay.
So the entire dark web is used for all type of criminal activity.
Okay.
It's not that only a part of it is bad.
Yeah, but there are
Now,
grades, some things.
From child pornography.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please carry on.
No, I was just saying that some things are still, bad, but they still are acceptable because it does happen in the real world. I mentioned things like drugs. It happens in the real world everywhere. So one can to reasonable extent understand that, yeah, it can also happen in the dark web. But there are things which are obnoxious, which are obviously should not happen at all. And you mentioned child pornography and things like that. Yeah. Correct. So I was just asking that, do these things exist?
I would say interesting part. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. So there is a very interesting, turn of event that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So this dark web, deep web is not very difficult to access. Even somebody who is below 14 or 12 or 10 can access the dark web, deep web. I mean, somebody like maybe for your age, it is appearing to be Greek and Greek Latin, but it's not like that. So it can be accessed just with a single browser, and that is the Tor browser.
Wow.
Now the problem is, in the lockdown, in the pandemic, we have forced our kids to use more and more on the mobile technology.
Yeah.
So these kids who were otherwise busy with their friends outside the house, they are now trapped within. They have nothing else to do, and they have only a mobile as their only entertainment or whatever, their entire digital life. So you do not know whether these kids are actually going and spending time on the dark web, deep web. And on the dark web, these kids are like sitting ducks.
I think that
So
really
this has
is
become a very, very bad something. Yeah, that this has been I would say, an interesting turn of event because the pandemic, this has taken a lot free out of the house time away from the kids and pushed them more into a mobile-oriented life. And if they want to find an entertainment in the using their mobile, they will soon move from the surface web to the 95% of the web, that is the dark web, deep web. So how do you make sure that your kids are not getting involved into this?
I think, Sandeep, you touched upon something which hugely concerns me as well. I mean, the reason I said this is because I just had a chat yesterday with one of my family friend in India, and they were talking about how the kids are spending almost all waking hours and sometimes the whole night, not even sleeping, on their mobiles, and they don't have a clue. I mean, I think they initially thought that they were just playing games on the mobile, but they're not even sure, because they do see that the child is now increasingly saying that he has to study because exams are now on the digital exams. So literally they just can't force or even request the children to move away from internet or mobile. And this can be a big catastrophe if what you're saying, if things like that get into contact with these children, and I'm really worried about that. Are there any laws? I mean, I'm not too sure whether we have that in the UK, but are there any global laws which are implemented for children's safety?
There are many laws over there, but the people who are using the dark web are the lawbreakers. So how do you stop the lawbreakers with a law?
Yeah, that's true. Now, I'll come to a problem at hand here in the UK. I mean, there are all kinds of scams, and I'm sure it's not just the United Kingdom, but it would be happening in other parts of the world as well. So, for instance, a few weeks back, a friend of mine had a call claiming that this is a call from the National Insurance. You know, we have this NI system here in the UK, which is a unique tax code. So, apparently, the caller was trying to get hold of the NI number of the person in question, and by getting hold of that, they are able to get hold of other critical data, and that they can use and manipulate this data to do all kinds of scams, including financial scams. They can get into a person's income records and even take out, get access to their banks. So I mean, this is really a cause of concern, and the scamsters, they obviously, I mean, we keep hearing the one-odd cases, what they've done, duped someone elderly, someone who's not knowledgeable. But I don't see any kind of checks and balances. What do you think is happening? What is making it so easy for them?
See, the only problem that I see, there are multiple problems. I would not say one problem. First of all, there are a lot of tech-savvy people who doesn't have a job. So they have to earn. They have a lot of skills, but they do not know. I mean, there's a normal way to feed themselves. And that has happened all over the world. I mean, there are millions of people, I would say, young people, very young people, who are very, very tech-savvy, but due to lockdown pandemic, they lost their job. They don't have a normal way of earning their livelihood. So these people have become a direct recruitment for all these cyber criminals, because there is an organized crime syndicate who who hire these people, jobless but very much tech savvy people, and they are getting into all type of scams. Now, there are hundreds of scams going on, because whenever the government comes up with any scheme or any technological, I would say, do-yourself some app or some portal, the first people who takes advantage of that are the criminals. So let me give you an example. So this one that I was hearing about, that insurance scam. So you get a call through an automatic voice call, when they ask you that if your insurance, this ID card has got compromised or blocked or expired, and if you want to reactivate it, you please press on 1.
Correct.
The moment you press on 1, it automatically redirects the call to a call center or to a person, a man or a woman. On the other side, they start asking you a lot of questions like your date of birth, your address, your anniversary date. Now, the more you give this information to this person, you will see these informations are used to obtain a loan, to open a bank account, or to alter the postal address. So once they get this information, they can get a credit card in your name. They can start a bank account in your name and start a fraud over there. They can redirect your postal mail to a different address, and they can even take a loan in your name. So these scams are basically a step 1 to collect your information, to do a step 2, which is a much bigger crime. So if you ask me about solution, I would say if somebody is asking very confidential information over the phone, and you are suspicious, it's better that you don't give this information. 2, if somebody is asking you to fill up a form, try to see whether that portal starts with HTTPS. Because if the portal starts with HTTP, then most likely it's a fake website. Third is different type of scam which is going on all over the world. Most of these criminals know that if you face a problem, you will search on Google. So what these guys have done, they have created fake websites which comes up at the top in the Google search. So the moment you search for some with some keywords that I am facing a problem with my insurance card, or I am facing a problem with my credit card number, or maybe I am facing a problem with my WhatsApp, my Skype, God knows what. Immediately we search on Google, and these guys have created very high listed fake websites which catches these keywords and lists those websites at the top. So you should not blindly trust a site which comes up on the Google rank. Most of these sites can be fake, and the moment you click on these sites and you call that customer support number over there, you are directly stepping into the trap of a cyber criminal.
No, thanks, Sandeep. I think that's very, very useful for us to know. And it's not that this is a problem faced by few. This is a problem faced by almost everyone. I don't know the stats, but somewhere I did read that at some stage, every adult in the UK has faced some sort of fraud, cyber fraud. So it's a problem which concerns each one of us, and this is extremely relevant. We have with us here today Sandeep Sengupta, who's a global information and cybersecurity expert. Sandeep has been in the cybersecurity world for more than 2 decades, and he also does something which is known popularly as ethical hacking. We've been talking about various challenges in today's world for everyone, whether you like it or not. Cyber fraud and cybersecurity concerns each one of us. You can't escape it. One can possibly think that by changing passwords and by following certain processes, they are safe from it, but one can never be sure. And as Sandeep has pointed out, there are certain things to look out for, and everyone needs to have a basic education to ensure that they don't fall victim to cyber fraud. Sandeep, thank you for all the tips which you've given us so far. I just wanted to follow up to the last question by asking you, what is phishing? Because that's another term which we hear very, very often. And I do believe that phishing is equally common in my own office. One of the young person, made a cardinal mistake by clicking on something and almost put us at peril because the email went out to one of our clients that we have changed our bank details and asking them to pay into the new bank details. And this is extremely common. I think most businesses have faced it at one point or other. And this can be so dangerous because luckily, the client followed it with someone senior in the team. But had they not, the payment could have been done to the wrong account. So would you just like to tell us how do we, and we have quite a secure email system. We do update it. We have a team which constantly watches it as well. So if it can happen to us, I'm not sure if anyone can be safe from it. What do you say?
So when you say secure, it might not be secure. That is where the ethical hackers come into play. Because we go to companies and we check whether the server is secured. Even if you are using some cloud email, most of you people are using cloud email, whether that cloud email settings are secured or not. I would say 10 out of 10 times we find that it is not secured. So there are some loopholes over there which the cyber criminals exploit. So let me give you some one or two examples. So example number one, what people do, suppose I'm sending an email to one of your friend or to one of your clients or to one of your relative. I can send an email to that email ID from your email ID.
Correct. This is exactly what
So
happened.
that is called email spoofing. However, this can be stopped if you use something called SPF and DMARC in the domain.
Right.
I mean, this might sound like a very
Yeah.
technological, geeky jargon, but this is the only way you can stop these emails from getting generated from your domain. If you use the SPF and DMARC in your domain, no hacker can send a phishing email from your domain.
I'll make a note of
Now,
that.
two,
Yeah.
yes, free consultancy for you. Okay, coming to the second part. If you have an email, suppose do you have a Gmail?
Yep.
Okay, did you activate two-factor authentication?
I think I've done it for yeah, if I go on different devices. That's true.
Then a OTP comes to you, a one-time password.
Yeah, if I change the device, I mean, not on the same device.
Okay, I will
because-
not.
Yeah.
I will not do a certain audit over here.
Yeah.
So if you have activated an OTP, now this OTP can be generated in Gmail, in your any corporate cloud email. It can be activated on your Facebook, can be done in Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, even on your WhatsApp. So most of us do not activate this two-factor authentication. If you activate this two-factor authentication, moment you give your ID password to log into these accounts, the OTP will be generated, which will come to your mobile. And this is a free service. They don't charge any money for that. So if you do it, then suppose I am a bad hacker and I try to log into your account using your ID password, I will not be able to do it because OTP will not come to me. The one-time password only will come to your mobile. So the world is moving from password to OTP, and people don't activate OTP because by default this is switched off. You have to activate it after putting your mobile number over there. You just do a market survey, you will see 9 out of 10 people hasn't activated. So that is the second most biggest reason for having a phishing. I mean, this phishing attack. Third, I would say, if suppose I send an email to you from your HR department, because just now I told that I can send an email from any email ID to the other email ID. I
Correct.
just have to manipulate the from field. So if I send an email from your HR's department and give you an attachment that this is your HR appraisal, what will you do? Will you download it or not? Or if I send an email from the tax department and attach a file which is nothing but a ransomware and tell you this is your tax refund, will you click on it or not? So these are the problems which are happening.
I think you nailed it. I mean, we do all become lazy, but the challenge also is that how many passwords and how many OTP activations, because one of the things I face constantly is that you constantly coming across new things. So whether there's a new social media platform or a new system which you want to possibly use, and so many other things where you want to maybe register for this thing or that thing. And there's always a challenge that how many times I kind of enter a password, then save those passwords, then how secure I want with everything. But I get your point that when it comes to crucial things like your bank accounts or your core Gmail account, maybe one can be extremely cautious, because if that can be the bedrock for someone who's scamming and gets those details, one is done. So I get your point, but equally challenging is how much can one manage? I mean, end of the day,
You do not need to remember passwords, because you just need to go to that account and activate the OTP, the two-factor authentication. So as I told you, this password will become obsolete. There will be nothing called password down the line after 10 years or 5 years. You cannot remember so many passwords. So it has to be an OTP based system. So OTP will come to your mobile, and that is what the two-factor authentication comes into play. So my tips will be, whether you are using a Gmail or a Facebook or Instagram or your corporate email, activate OTP, because that feature is there, but by default deactivate it. If you activate it, nobody can hack into that account.
So, Sandeep, I think I get your point, and I do completely buy into the fact that passwords at some point of time they have to become obsolete, because otherwise it's insane out there. One is signed to hundreds of things, and now I believe there is even a software which automatically saves your passwords into a master file. There's this kind of, but eventually somewhere someone can access it, and that is the bothersome thing, that someone somewhere can get into any
I don't
system.
know whether I can show some demo over there. I can share my screen or not. Is that allowed?
Possibly you can. Yeah, we can.
Okay. So let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Is it okay? I don't think there is a screen sharing.
Okay.
Is this software allowing screen sharing?
Maybe not possible. Sorry, I didn't
Maybe
realize
not
it.
possible.
Yeah.
So I could have given a live demo how the password are stolen.
Yeah. But that's okay. I mean, I guess people can take the tutorial from you eventually. I believe you are available, and one can reach out to you. But it's very interesting what you said. I take into account the future is going to be password free, and possibly one can be less lazy and subscribe to things like OTP, or be active about it. And the sense I'm getting while talking to you is that one has to be on the lookout. One can't be complacent. One can't be sitting and thinking that everything is going to be safe and secure. One has to be constantly on the lookout for signs of fraud and kind of move on with the times. And that brings me to a question that, while it's understandable that young people and a lot of people who have been brought up in the digital era, what we call the millennial, and let's say, for argument's sake, we include ourselves, because I was born in a time, at least while growing up, internet came into vogue. But what about the elderly people who are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and some of them have very little digital literacy? How do you protect them? And it's almost imperative that they have to use internet. They have to use internet banking. There's no two ways about it in today's time. They have to do certain things. Even in developed countries like the United Kingdom, you possibly would be kind of forced to do certain things, And I'm sure even in India and many parts of the world, it's kind of imperative. What do you suggest for them? What should be done? Do you have an idea?
Right. So see, there are some good points and bad points. If somebody is like 70, 80, 90 years of age, most likely they use the internet for only very essential work. They are not very tech savvy. Like, they are not dependent on their gadgets for their day-to-day life. So the attack vector is also very small. The more you use the gadgets, the attack vector also gets bigger. So if you are coming to the senior citizen bracket, I would say there are a few things that they need to keep in mind. One, never give a PIN number or a OTP over the phone. 90% of the fraud starts from here. Nobody will ask for a OTP over the phone. OTP can be given on a mobile app, can be a portal, or face to face. If you see somebody, maybe we are using Ola, Uber. where you give a PIN number to the driver
Yeah.
when you start the journey. But over the phone, you should never give a PIN or an OTP.
Okay, that's a cardinal rule. Yep.
Yes, that's a golden rule.
Yep.
And the second point is, if you go and see a HTTP site, if you look at the URL and you see that the lock sign is not there. If you right now you look at the browser at the top, you will see there's a small lock over there. If that lock is open, don't trust that site. Number 3, if you are using a mobile, never give any app access to your microphone, to your SMS, and to the webcam. Because if any app gets access to these 3 things, it can do a lot of damage.
And I think
So
I'll take that point, because I do face this dilemma sometimes, and I'll make a note of that.
Correct. So if some app has been given access to the SMS, you are basically giving the OTP access to that app, because OTP actually is nothing but SMS. 3, if you are using a mobile, because why I'm telling mobile, because that will be the only thing people will be using in future. Laptop, desktops will not be there. So if you are using a mobile, make sure that you don't hand over that mobile to somebody without erasing the data. Because if you think that deleting or do a factory reset or do a formatting cannot delete data, I can use a forensic tool to recover all the data from there. All your photo, all your history, mobile history, everything can be recovered. So if you want to erase that data from your mobile, from your pen drive, from your hard disk, even from your DSLR camera SD card, use some tools to overwrite that data. And there are hundreds of free tools for that. 4th, you must note down the IMI number. If you lose the mobile, you can track that mobile to the IMI number. 5, if you are using an iPhone or whatever handset you are using, there is a feature called Find My Phone. So suppose I am using iPhone. If you go to the Apple website, you must have an account, create an account, register your mobile. Same thing with Samsung or your Google. Like if you have an Android mobile, you can go to the Google, log into Google, connect your mobile. In that case, if that mobile is lost or stolen, you can remotely erase that data, log that data, or even know where that mobile is on a Google map. But to find this, you have to pre-register that mobile to Google.
Fine. So I think some very, very interesting points here. And 2 pertinent questions which come to my mind. I mean, what you said, I completely get that, the risk in which we are living. But unfortunately, for now, we all tied down to Zoom. And you said that don't give access to microphone. I mean, Zoom, is a necessity. And we do give access to, obviously, that particular app. In terms of microphone access, we give video access, everything. And there have been some questions, and I'm aware that there are sentiments that it's also Chinese-backed technology. So there can be even further implications in terms of geopolitical implications. But that besides, for a common business, Zoom does seem to get into our phones, our tablets as well. And the second question I had, Sandeep, which comes from the fact that how WhatsApp has been used. From whatever I could know, I understand WhatsApp is an encrypted service, and to that extent, most people used it, to ensure that at least a minimum privacy is maintained. So WhatsApp is, I mean, for good or bad, is being used by everyone to avoid any legal footprint as well. And in terms of if you're having, let's say, a conversation with someone which you don't want to be recorded, as a legal entity, people use WhatsApp. But I believe in India, I think there was a case, and not just one, but there have been a few cases, but the most famous one the Ria Chakrabarti and Sushant Singh case, where they use WhatsApp as a tool to kind of implicate people, and that too in unrelated cases. So my question is not about that particular case, but usage of WhatsApp and usage of Zoom. What do you have any views on that?
I will answer your second question first. That's the WhatsApp part. So WhatsApp is end-to-end encrypted. However, if you back up the WhatsApp data on cloud, that cloud data is not encrypted. That is how they crack the case.
Oh.
So if you do not have a cloud backup of the entire WhatsApp, whatever communication is going on, then that is definitely 100% secure.
So what you're saying
However,
is, Sandeep, so what you're saying is if I go and delete my WhatsApp cloud backup, it can't be retrieved. Is that correct?
now the question is, who is trying to retrieve? They have multiple backups on the cloud. Which one did you delete? Do you really think that something which is deleted by you is actually getting deleted? They have a copy over there. So in our world, we always say, if you are using a free product, then you are the product. Right? So if you are using some software for free, some data is getting sold, and that is the way to monetize it. So if you delete that data, there is no guarantee the data is deleted.
Got it.
However, right at the beginning, if you do not put a cloud backup over there, then I believe that can be avoided. Then there is no data on the cloud. Now coming to this question on Zoom. The Zoom is, the free version of Zoom is mandatorily saves the data on a Chinese server. But if you are using a paid version of Zoom, then you can have some setting options from where you can avoid that data
Storage.
saving and the Chinese server. But the problem started in a different way. All the Zoom account along with their password got stolen. And they were given free of cost and the dark web debate. So the people who use the same password for Zoom in their Gmail and Facebook, those corresponding Gmail and Facebook got hacked. So that was a big problem.
Got it. So, Sandeep, we had a very interesting conversation, and I think some of the have made mental notes, and I need to possibly follow up. But I
I
believe.
can give one example, Manish.
Yeah.
I have compiled all these do and don't points in a particular handbook, and that handbook is available at www.isoeh.com/handbook.pdf. So if anybody wants to know that what are the do and don'ts to stay safe on the digital world, they can type this URL on any browser and they can download the handbook. I have listed all the do and don't points over there.
I'm definitely going to share that with friends and family, because I think a lot of people can save themselves a lot of trouble if they follow what you're saying. And Sandeep, that brings me to a question about the school which you run, the Indian School of Ethical Hacking. Do you train people in ethical hacking, and is that only in India, or do you want to open it maybe virtually even for Britain or for people here in the United Kingdom?
We have many students from UK.
Wow.
Because everything is online.
Okay, so virtual school.
So we have around, yes, we have around 1,200 students. So right from, there are different questions which come up. Students come up and tell me, sir, can you teach me how to stay safe? And there are some students will come and tell me, I want to make my career, I want to earn 10x. So we have different types of students, and we are teaching around 1,200 students per year. And we do have many students from UK who are taking up online training from us. But more interestingly, we are not only training, we are protecting a lot of companies. And we have clients from UK whom we are extending this ethical hacking service. So I would say, if you really want to get protected from ethical hackers, the bad hackers, only the good hackers can save you. So we are the good hackers who are protecting hundreds of companies and top level companies from the bad hackers. So even there we also have clients from UK.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to promote you for free because I think
Thank you so
you're
much.
doing something very useful for the society at large, and a lot of people would benefit from knowing about this. But one question which does get very often asked is the hacking war between nations and the nations like India, China, Pakistan, and we've seen examples of that happening in the past. There's suddenly one of the Indian government websites hacked by Pakistani hackers, and it happens on the world stage as well in the geopolitical setting of this world. I mean, the Russian hackers, we all know about them. They're, I think, one of the most famous exports of Russia, I would say, in today's time. So, what is your view? What is this really the way? I mean, we've seen this in movies and on OTT series as well. Is this how the future wars are going to be fought? Cyber wars. Is that a real scenario, and does it have like serious consequences?
Third World War has already started, and that will be fought with a mouse.
You're not talking about the
Because-
pandemic, I hope.
Not really, but I mean, this has started much before the pandemic.
Okay.
Every country wants to know the strategic level information of the other country, because this age is the age of information age.
Knowledge is power. Yeah, of course.
So if you know the information, you stay ahead. So every country wants to know the strategic information of other countries, and every country has a specialized wing in their military who are trying to hack into the infrastructures of other countries. And this is going on for a long time. I mean, there is nothing hidden over there. Every country knows that the other country is trying to hack into their infrastructure. However, when it gets exposed to the public, it becomes a news on the newspaper. Otherwise, this has become an industry standard.
Sure. And Sandeep, we're coming to the end of the show, but there is a big question which gets asked every now and then, and which is of real concern, which is about digital surveillance. And a lot of people, a lot of activists, and people from all walks of life have been talking about it, that the government has become increasingly, and we have this issues in the United Kingdom. There was something called GDPR for data privacy, which became news a few years back. But equally, it seems every single day, the government seems to be getting more control, digital surveillance, for good or bad. I'm sure the reasons are often quoted as good reasons, but the amount of power which is going to the hands of the government is a little bit scary. It's almost like being in the Big Brother house. What do you think? Is that the truth? Are we really under the snap of a mouse, or under the roll of a mouse, where someone can access data about us and even things which we don't want anyone else to know? What do you think?
Daddy knows everything. Everything that you are doing is known to the government. Nothing to hide. I mean, it's very difficult because I think the biggest war is between the government and the terrorist gangs. And then comes the drug cartel, and then comes the arms and illegal arms cartel. So I would say, if you take the terrorist, they have software that they can connect to each other without telecom, without internet. So there was a software, even now you have used a software like Gotena. I mean, you can explore it on the internet. These are used for good purpose. Like if you go for to hills and you don't have any, to a remote place where you don't have any internet or you don't have any telecom, then how will you connect to your co-traveler? So there are a lot of hardwares and software where you can connect between two people within 10 kilometers where there is no internet or no telecom. Now just think, if this goes to a terrorist group, what can happen? So, I mean, privacy, I would say privacy is definitely, if it goes to the wrong hand, to the wrong government, it can start a dictatorship. However, to stay alive and looking at the disturbance, the political, religious, and different type of disturbance, uh, this is a big debate that whether privacy has to be compromised. Even in GDPR, it has given 100% control to national security. So any government can get anything if national security is involved. So I mean, GDPR cannot protect your privacy from the government.
So we unfortunately conclude that privacy is a myth, and we actually are in a Big Brother house. Sandeep, thank you so much for being part of this show. It has been incredibly knowledge and learning session for all of us here. The Internet School of Ethical Hacking, I wish you we all need to kind of learn from what you've been teaching, and it's not a choice anymore. Digital surveillance, cybersecurity, these are not words which are out there for other people. These are things which affect us directly. So we all need to learn a bit more from how we protect ourselves. And thank you so much for sharing in a very succinct way, in a very meaningful way, things about how we can protect ourselves better. I wish you all the best.
Friends, you. Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. Friends, we had Sandeep Sengupta, Global Information and Cybersecurity expert, who also is known in the hacking world as an ethical hacker. Hope you enjoyed the show, and see you again next week. Thank you very much.